What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Lorenzi Park Pond. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, I try and make my way to the different ponds to meet some of the people watching my videos. It is nice to put a face to some of the comments that I do get. So thank you guys for always saying hi when you meet me out there.
Hello, YouTube fans. I am here with, I would say, a celebrity right now. I'll make him a celebrity. His name is Vernon, and I follow him on YouTube, so here I am. My name is Steven, and I'm glad to meet him up here at Lorenzi Park, fishing for whatever bites. But trout is good for now. It's nice meeting Vernon. Oh, hello, Joe. Hello, Dad. You'll see this video. I will show it to you. Y'all have a great day, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever day it is. Y'all have a great day.
But going to the different park ponds, I've realized that the fish don't act the same across the board, which is weird because they start from the same place. You would think they feed on the same things. For instance, when I went to Boulder, I threw an inline spinner, and within the first cast, I already got a hit on one of the little trouts. However, when I went to Floyd Lamb Park, threw around inline spinners for hours, didn't get a single bite. And that kind of just shows that you need different ways to target these fish. If you're only showing up with power baits and the power baits aren't working, you're not going to have a good time. So you need different lures and different techniques to target the fish. Now, over the last 3 years, I've learned quite a lot about this. If you go and watch some of my older videos on my channel, you will see that I've caught fish on cast masters, got them on inline spinners, power worms, power baits, even catching them on flies. So it's very hard to actually find a bait that I've not used out there before. But when it comes to the different techniques, when doing something like drop shotting or the bombarder, there are still techniques that I haven't mastered or tried yet. So I'm thinking that in today's video, I want to look at a different technique for trying to find fish out there. And this time around, it's going to be something simple. It's going to be little bobbers. Now, this is something I think most fishermen actually start with. When buying a combo deal, you'll always get some bobbers. So I think most of us start with bobbers, but I actually don't like bobbers. I think they scare away the fish. If you think about it, a fish is going for the food and something moves above him, he's going to be all spooked. But that does not mean that I've never fished with bobbers before. In fact, my first trout that I ever caught was using a little bobber. As a teenager, I got the chance to fish in Rome, Italy, and we used bobbers to find trout out there. But now that you know the plan for today, let's look at what I'm going to do out there. Alright, so to start off, just wanted to make sure we're in the right spot, so I threw out some power baits, and we happened to get a hit on the power baits, so this is definitely the spot to be in. And there we go, our first little trout for today. Sadly, this little guy swallowed the power baits. You can see he's bleeding quite a lot. He's not going to survive, so we're going to have to keep him. Okay, so we weren't planning on keeping any fish. Sun's not up yet. We can't have a good look at this fish. But seeing how he's got hooked, we're going to have to keep him. So we got him on the stringer, going to put him in the water, not going to use any more power baits. I guess we've already now caught a fish, so successful with catching fish so far. But now to get into the real video. So on my first setup, I'm going to use a little bobber, and from that all the way down we have a little piece of night crawler, little guy wriggling around there. The idea is I'm going to cast that out, and we'll have to keep vigilant and look at the bobber. If the bobber goes down, we know there's a fish messing with our baits. Quite simple. That is how I caught my first little trout in Italy, using a setup like this. We have the bobber and the little worm. Now you will notice that my leader from the bobber down to the hook is quite long. I don't want it to be close to the bobber. Summertime, it's catching bluegill, that's fine, but these fish might be spooked by the little bobber. That's why I have a longer line, And like I said, this one we're just going to get out into the water, leave it soaking. Alright, so I don't know if the little bobber is visible out there on the camera, whether that can see it, but I can see it quite clearly. That thing moves, we know there's a fish around it. But that's just the baits that's going to soak out there, plain old boring. So on my second rod, we are going to be doing something quite similar. We have a little bobber on there, and from the bobber we have down to a little power worm. Now I've been doing pretty well lately on the power worms, but that's on something like a drop shot rig, or when having a little trout magnet on there, something down on the bottom. And I think that's important. These fish are way down low. The waters aren't as cold, so they're going down into the colder parts. They're not feeding up high. That's why on this we also do have quite a long leader to get down to a little power worm. Now these little power worms, I think the price of them have gone up. About 3 years ago I bought some and it wasn't that expensive. Where this little pack, this was something like $6. So I do feel the price has gone up quite a lot, but they do last you a long time. And you will see here it says floating. All the power worms are floating, but that does not mean they simply float up in the air. If I drop this one into the water, you will see it immediately start sinking. It's not floating, staying on the top, and that is why I don't have any weights on this setup that I'm using. We just have the little power worm on a hook because it's already sinking, but it's a slow sinking action, and that is the important thing. I'm going to throw it into the water, wait a while for it to sink, and once you move it, it swims back up and it slowly falls down again. And it's this slowly falling action, moving, falling action that the fish like. So whereas on the one setup, the little worm is just dangling around, this one we're going to be constantly moving, seeing if we can get an action out of the fish. Alright, so I have our little power worm out there, gonna let it sink down. And all I'm going to be doing is every once in a while, just give a small little pop. I can see my bobber going down. Now, when I'm moving the rod, I expect the bobber to be moving, but when that bobber is moving and it's not, and I'm not touching the rod, then I know it's a fish, and I'll try and set the hook. That's why it's important to always try and reel in the slack, because if that little thing goes below water, we need to be able to set the hook. If you have lots of line hanging out, you won't be able to set the hook. I'm also thinking these fish will be lethargic, they're not going to chase a moving thing, so slow movements, letting it come up, letting it sink back down, letting it pop up, sink back down. So we have the two different ways of trying to find trout out there on the bobbers. We'll see if we get anything. It's going to be quite a lot of casting, reeling in, trying to figure out on what depth this needs to be. Of course, that's a good thing with the little bobber. You can always move it up or down depending on how high in the water column you want your little baits to be. But I think we need to get our little worm deeper into the water column. Try again. I also do have quite a assortment of different colors of worms that I'll be trying. Maybe they don't like the pink, so we'll try some yellow, try some different stuff, see if we get any. This little bird's interested in my trout. Just want to spook him. We don't want him to be messing with our little fish. Alright, so I'm not going to be constantly showing you me changing the height of the bobber or the depth I want the worm to be in, nor am I going to show you every time I change colors on the worms. I'm just going to make these little changes, cast around, see if we get anything. If we get any action, I'll bring you guys to it. Alright guys, I've now been bobbing for trout for 3 hours, and in this time I haven't had one single little hit. Now a lot of people swear by using these little bobbers. At the moment I even have a little trout magnet on there, doing a little suspended jigging, but no fish for me today on the little bobbers. Now I think the problem is the fish are quite low in the water column. I cannot get my baits and lures down to them, but I can see this working, especially if the fish are higher up. So maybe doing something like this in a creek would be a lot better idea than using a little pond. But I did give it a go, I did try, but to be honest, it's not that much fun just standing around bobbing some bobbers. So I think just to have a little bit of fun out there with gonna stop using the little bobbers, gonna swap out to some different things, see if I can find any fish, or whether we're only getting one fish for this video. There's always the possibility that this is one of the ponds where little power worms don't work, but the only way to figure that out would be by drop shotting some power worms out there, see if we get any hits on it. Alright, ladies and gents, I spent another 2 hours throwing out all sorts of lures, and so far, quite ironically, I've only gotten hits on the power baits, nothing else on any of the lures. Now maybe these lures don't work in this pond, maybe it's just one of those days where the fish aren't willing to go for them, or maybe I just suck at fishing. Whatever the case, I didn't get any fish on the little bobbers, nor did I get any on some lures, but we did manage to get that one swallowed with a little hook. Wasn't intending on keeping any fish, but we're definitely going to take that little guy. That's one of the dangers using power bait. If the fish swallow the hook and they start bleeding, they're not going to make it, and you need to be willing to keep them. But if any of you guys have had better luck using the bobbers, please go down in the comments and tell me, what am I doing wrong? Lots of people swear by using bobbers, but for me, it's something that I don't like using, and maybe that's reflected in the result we got out there today. But I'm not going to drag this video out, spend more time not catching fish. So I want to thank you guys for following along. Please do give me a little thumbs up on the video. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments as well. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Alright, but thank you for watching, and like always, see you next time.